I don't know what the reason is. I mean, maybe because of 9/11, I guess the whole government's supposed to just shut down now. The whole Democratic process is supposed to just shut down now because we're sad or something. Now, we're Americans now, and one of the things Americans are supposed to do is participate. I hear a lot of people complaining about what's going on in the White House, what's going on in Congress, and you don't have a right to complain if you didn't vote, people. And that's what we're doing today. We're registering Michigan voters. We got a tent over there with the green canopy. We have the issues tent with the white canopy behind there, and I'll be manning that most of the day. My name's Statzer. Normally I'd say I'm from Cures Not Wars, but today I'm saying I'm from the Democratic Party because I'm one of those card-carrying liberals. And I think, really, we need more of us card-carrying liberals. Michigan is one of the stronger states for the Democrats, but it is a battleground state this year. And the Republicans have a crazy thing they're doing where they're co-opting Democratic Party issues and counterfeiting them into their own thing, like the drug plan. They got a drug plan to get pills for the old people. What are they doing? They're taking our tax dollars and they're giving it to the drug companies, and the drug companies are grabbing that up and they're selling pills. So it's just a big handout to the drug companies, and I think that's a bunch of crap. So that's one of the reasons why I joined the Democratic Party, so I could get mail and emails and people tell me about what's going on. The local Democrats in Michigan have a very good website, and they get on their email list and they send you great stuff in the email. But one of the things I'm going to be allowing you to do today at my little white tent there is I'm going to let you read my mail, because I've got a lot of mail. I got a piece of mail here from the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. Nancy Pelosi, California Democrat. She tells me, President Bush and the Republicans in Congress haven't been straight with the American people. For 3 long years, they've misled us, and they've made promises they had no intention of keeping. But now, we've got an election cycle coming through. We can't let them do this to us again. Too much is at stake. The Republicans who now control our government are playing with the future of every man, woman, and child in America. And I'm getting sick of it. We can't afford 4 more years of George Bush in the White House, or 2 more years of Republican leadership in the Congress. America urgently needs a Democratic victory in November. And to get that, we need to register new people to vote. People who haven't voted before can come in on this thing in the last week even and save the day for the whole country. So it's important to register, and it's important to follow up by voting. And along the way, get educated about the issues so you can intelligently participate in this government. Because we find the people who intelligently participate in the government generally vote Democrat. President Bush's misleading rhetoric, which is great for the unintelligent people, they love that stuff. His empty promises all began well before he took office. And he's not following through on this stuff, always following through on all the bad stuff he wanted to do that he swore he wasn't going to do. Like when he got Kerry and everybody else in Congress to authorize the use of military force in Iraq. And now he's trying to say Kerry flip-flopped on that vote. No, Kerry said, you made some promises to us, the American people, through Congress, when we let you have your authorization for military force, and you didn't keep your promises. The most notable of which was when George said military use was going to be the last resort. And it turns out to be the first resort. Bush says he prayed for peace. He must have been praying in the Temple of Mars. He covered up his true intentions from the start, so Americans didn't know what they were getting when President Bush took office and his Republican cronies came in 2 years later and took control of Congress. They ran on this beautiful military campaign. If you were a Democrat, you weren't for the strong defense. Somehow, apparently if the Democrats were in control, we would have no military, I guess, to hear these people tell it. The military is a pretty nonpartisan issue. I think we all understand that. But the use of the military is a very partisan issue, because we have the most powerful military in the world, and it's a beautiful thing when used properly. But when you take the service of those servicemen and women and you abuse it by sending them to an oil war, you're pushing it too far. And we wouldn't see a Democrat doing that. We had plenty of years with Clinton where he demonstrated responsible use of the American military. We could have 8 more years of that under John Kerry if we get out the vote, get people registered, and make this thing happen ourselves. It's our government, after all. Let's drive this engine. What do you say? Because of Bush later, we know better. We know who President Bush really is. We know what he stands for now. We know what he's done. And we know what he hasn't done. And most importantly of all, we know how he operates. He's got things going on out in the open in the White House that would have made Richard Nixon blush. G. Gordon Liddy would be vice president in the Bush administration. In the months to come, I'm convinced that we can use that knowledge to beat him. The first thing we need to do is expose the deceptive way that President Bush has presented his entire presidency to us. Every State of the Union address is an opportunity to unmask this guy. He's constantly trying to pull the wool over our eyes, so all we got to do is lift it back up and say, peekaboo. Scares the hell out of those Republicans. We're here to read. He says jobs are on the rise. I haven't gotten a rise at my job in over a year. I haven't gotten a raise, I haven't gotten a new job, I don't see prospects, I see factories closing down, I see 70% of the corporations in America don't pay any taxes at all. So we're paying for this whole government, we're paying for this park, we're paying for the police, we're paying for the CIA and the money they give to the Taliban, Osama bin Laden to teach them how to hijack planes and stuff. All that's our money. That's not the corporations who are making all the money and benefiting from this freedom and benefiting from the money we spend. No, it's us paying for it. And George says, oh, we're going to give us all a tax cut. Did anybody here get a really cool tax cut? Anybody get a tax cut that was going to change their lives? I have not heard one corporation tell me that, or one small business owner tell me that he was going out of business because taxes were too high. No. The real problem is there's no customers. Because we're all out here trying to survive. The only customers that are getting paid every month are the banks. And that's Bush. So, unemployment rate, 225,000 Americans have simply stopped looking for work. They don't even show up on those unemployment numbers they give us. That seem kind of low. A third of the population is in prison. Those people don't show up in the unemployment lines, and a lot of those people got into prison because they couldn't find work and they decided to deal drugs. And now they're sitting in prison, unemployed. No, wait a minute. They've got a thing going on. We're paying for that. Not the corporations, the 70% that don't pay it. No, they're not paying for that. Pat Robertson, he's not throwing down some money for special ministry to these people. No, we're paying for that. Nearly 3 million Americans have lost their jobs under President Bush, and he has the worst job record since any president, since Herbert Hoover. Now, Herbert Hoover was the president during the Great Depression, when all the farms went bust, when the Midwest dried up. It was a terrible time, one of the worst times in American history. That's Hoover for you. The second worst point in American history is the Richard Nixon administration, and that's where we are right now. He talked about making health care affordable, but for the stark reality is that 3.8 million more Americans are uninsured than when President Bush took office. And he's got the new Medicare, so this is not totally up to date. But even with the new package, what you're talking about is a big handout to the drug companies, not better access to health care. The president said seniors can now save 10 to 25% off retail price of drugs. Well, they can go to Costco and do that. Once again, this rhetoric is far from reality, and it's pretty weak rhetoric, too, when you get right down to it. Under the Republican plan, these savings are not guaranteed. Drug makers can charge their prices and the list of covered drugs on a weekly basis, so it's just a different payment plan. It's just another way to make sure the drug companies get their money and their half a pound of flesh from our elderly. So this is our Bush. During this tribute to the brave men and women of the American military who are fighting in Iraq, Afghanistan, and God knows where else, President Bush failed to mention that he actually proposed cutting combat pay, limiting health care, and reducing family benefits for these same veterans, let alone the fact that when they come home, they're going to wonder where their job is, where their economy is, what happened to their family while they were gone, and for what. This is not a military campaign in Iraq. Let me say this again. This is not a military campaign. This is a Republican presidential re-election campaign Don't lose sight of that for a second, people. When you're protesting the war, you really are protesting the re-election of George Bush, because that's the whole purpose of the war. Don't change horses in the middle of the stream, is what they used to say. You don't change your leadership in the middle of a war. Well, how long is this war going to last? It's going to last at least 8 years, so what are you going to do? Re-elect Bush until all the terrorists are gone? I don't think so. So that's the main reason why I'm against this war now, because I found out. And it's really our job now to find out. It's all about finding out, because we have these Republicans out here, every time they tell us a lie and they put out a cover story, they're stealing something that God gave us. They are stealing the truth. God is truth. And when you destroy the truth, it's like you're trying to destroy God, which of course is impossible to do. And just as the truth is impossible to destroy, people who have the truth and wield it are impossible to stop. And that's one of the things I see in John Kerry. That's why John Kerry stood up to Reagan during Iran-Contra. And we're going to hear more about that. This is why Kerry stood up to Bush in the war in Iraq and said, okay, you know, you tricked us into letting you have the military authorization, but we're not going to give you the blank check. And that's why Kerry was said to have voted against something that he previously voted for, because Kerry said, you know what? I'm not going to just go along with the rest of these guys, because sure, everybody voted. It's the safest vote in the world. And in the Bush campaign, what do? They say, Kerry voted against bulletproof armor for our soldiers. No. Rumsfeld voted against that. Rumsfeld's the idiot that sent all our people to Iraq to be police officers with no equipment. That's not Kerry. That's Bush. So look at these and realize everything that Bush says about Kerry can be turned around on himself. So how are we coming on this band here? You guys are setting up, right? Oh, don't wait on me. Just set up while I'm doing this. That's why I'm up here. Okay. I'm going to read another letter then. I'm going to read a letter actually from a Michigan politician this time. I got this letter from Debbie Stabenow, October 7, 2003. Now, Debbie Stabenow is a new Democrat. We had a lot of hope for her. She definitely understands women's rights and that issue. But she doesn't understand all the social issues yet. She needs a little training. But she sent me this nice letter saying, thank you for contacting me regarding legalizing the medical use of marijuana. I appreciate your views on this matter. Anybody appreciate medical marijuana here? Yeah. Understand that concept? That's good. The guy up there in the tent, he's a Democratic Party guy, and he might not understand it. There's a huge contingency out in this country that wants medical marijuana available and are sick of the fact that people are forced to use drugs when an herb does the job cheaper and much better. So what we have is that this letter goes on to say, as you know, on May 14, 2001, the United States Supreme Court issued a ruling regarding medical marijuana. The decision states that federal law regarding distribution supersedes state laws in this matter, which is what brought my complaint letter out. Because basically that means the Supreme Court can't help us. It's back to Congress to fix this problem. And Congress tries to fix this problem every year. Congressman Barney Frank has introduced the States' Rights to Medical Marijuana Act, otherwise known as H.R. 2344, into the House of Representatives. This bill is pending before a subcommittee on Health and House Committee on Energy and Commerce. In addition, Congressman Sam Farr introduced the Truth in Trials Act, or H.R. 1717, which is now pending before the Subcommittee on Crime, Terrorism, and Homeland Security. The Truth in Trials Act would help to provide a legal defense for the use of medical marijuana if it's used in accordance with state law. I understand your concern for defending the use of medical marijuana and will keep your strong views in mind if either of these bills comes before the Senate for my consideration. Thank you for sharing your views with me. If I can be of assistance to you and your family in the future, please do not hesitate to contact me again. Sincerely, Debbie Stabenow, United States Senator. So there are some good politicians. This isn't just the battle between Tweedledum and Tweedledummer. This is, especially this election cycle, a situation where the distinction between the two parties has never been clearer. And that's what the name of that tune. Who we got? We got a band coming up called Zildjian. Very good band, very drum oriented.